My names are Adil Paul Ushi.
I am Aminu Mosoba.
My name's Etoroma Michael Charles.
Ni sunana Wakili Usman Wakili.
Between the hours of 12 and 1 a.m., while I was praying with my colleague and friend in the Lord, Dr. Anyan Lowo, the Spirit of the Lord began to speak about having a job for me to do in a place called the place of the ranchers. Labare happened to be where my friend or my contact person was, as the Spirit directed. That is Jaro Saidu. Now, when by the next morning, by the way, we landed at about 10 p.m. at night. It was raining, it was cold. When we were able to get a place a hut to stay, they put a stove on for me to heat me up, warm me up for the night and all of that. By the next morning, I discovered that I lived in the midst of a completely Muslim, settlement. I was the only person different there. Every other person was a Muslim. Later on, I found out that they were behind, this place was behind, and generally the state was behind many other states, or most other states in Nigeria in terms of medical care. So by and large, diseases that will be common in places like this would be diseases that are associated with drinking water and food, nutrition. I noticed that there were several, cases of intestinal worms and other diarrheal diseases that were very common here as a result of poor drinking water. The other thing I noticed that because of the environment, mosquitoes were breeding in large numbers, and therefore malaria was commonplace. Okay, and then diseases like tuberculosis are also common. In fact, that became even worse at the dawn of the HIV/AIDS, era.
HIV/AIDS, majorly on the Mambila Plateau here, is, like out of every 10 patients we screen for HIV/AIDS, about 5-6 of them come down with, are positive with the virus, and that is quite alarming. Malaria is another endemic one here. Last year, in 2009 alone, from February till December, I think out of the 400 plus patients we screened for malaria, about 93% were positive. That's to tell you how high it is. And not only that, it results to fertility. Majorly, we have children suffers for children that comes down with malaria here majorly also come down with anemia, because the Plasmodium falciparum that is here destroys red blood cells completely. and you hardly see children here surviving it. So we had to do blood transfusion over and over here again for malaria actually. So it's troublesome here. In fact, we had a baby not quite long here, a baby of about 8 years here in the lab, and she had malaria actually. It was a little bit high, and her blood percentage was very low. So before we could run around to see what we could do, she passed on here in the lab. That was very painful actually.
So he made one sacrifice.
Se ohosigo hoke sadaka makonde gotel.
And he sent Jesus Christ,
Se oneli bingenako Yesu nasiu.
who became the sacrifice for the sins of the whole world.
Se warte sadaka.
Wakili and Yusuf's father, that they too have faced persecutions several times. In fact, I remember that at the time they gave their lives to the Lord in a village called Mbamga, they being farmers, all their farmland was burnt. Their barns were burnt. That is their storage, barns. They grow mainly corn or maize and some other cash crops like groundnuts and beans. Their barns were burnt and they were imprisoned for 2 months plus.
My dad and Wakili went down to Mamukan in Jada to see that man who I told you, Sheikh Isa Haruna. So when they met him on the 20th, that is on the 17th, I went back to Yola on the 10th. A week later, my dad and Wakili went down. On the 24th of that month, they got arrested by the Adamawa state government because they are followers of Christ. And since that time, that Sheikh Isa Haruna, up to now, we don't know where he's whereabouts. But my dad and Wakili and other 90-something people, we are jailed in Adamawa for about 2 months, 3 days, 63 days.
Tarihi ne mai tsawo domin an sha kama mu da yawa a nan Sardauna local government. An kama mu Fulani kusan mu 20 an kai mu gidan fursuna. An aje mu kaman kusan sati 2. Bayan sati 2 nan aka yi caji magana aka kai mu shari'a. Muka yi shari'a har watanni 4 kamin da aka gama shari'an nan. Alkali ya bincika ya tarar da wannan magana ba mu da wani laifi, ya zo sallame mu. to amma mu ba mu mai da wani martani ba, muka ce dama aikin Allah haka yake.